and obviously great if they get into a selective school. But just again, wanted to congratulate everyone for having a go at that selective exam and preparing. I know it, from personal experience, it is not easy. Now, what I want to talk about a bit on today is, I guess, the next hurdle for the kids coming up in year four, coming up to year four, the kids in year three, or especially the year four kids, about OC and OC prep and why it's actually important, um, and some common misconceptions as well as some of my experiences, right? So, having been to North Sydney boys, almost all of my friends have come from a um, OC school. It just makes it's almost like what I know is just anecdotally from talking to people who made it to schools like James Roos and Borkham Hills and North Sydney Boys. It's almost like the entire cohorts were just OC kids. Now, I myself am an example of one of the kids who didn't go to an OC, but went to selective. But as an average, I'd say there's a far greater amount of kids who went to OC then got into selective. Just because, and like I'll explain what an OC school is and why it's actually good and how it gets that many kids into selective. But just from what I've noticed, it almost seems like all the kids who went to an OC got into a selective, right? That's just how it seems. Now, the OC exam, this test happens in year four. It's basically the exact same as the selective exam, same format, same everything, except there's no writing. So it's just thinking skills, English comprehension, and maths. Now, it's obviously a lot easier of an exam for than the selective exam. There's also less competition for it. More people try to do the selective exam than the OC, but also there's less spots in the OC. There's only around 30 kids per OC class. Some schools can do maybe two OC classes, but again, a lot less spots for the OC. But what OC schools do and why they actually are very important is can again, it's like a baby selective where you're essentially in this OC class, small cohort of kids who are also very academically gifted and bright from years five and six, and it focuses on training you for the selective exam, right? And no matter how much tutoring you could, two kids can be in the exact same tutoring, one who goes to OC versus one who doesn't. If your child is spending 6 hours a day at school, 5 days a week, that's 30 hours for 2 years. That's majority of the time they have spent. They can do tutoring here and there, maybe an hour a day, maybe you can teach them, but majority of what they learn and what they do is coming from school. So if school, which is the biggest chunk of their learning, can be better, which is what an OC school provides, that's better than really anything. You know what I mean? And that will sort of give, and that's what anecdotally I was talking about. That is what gets kids those higher chances to get into selective, where I'd even dare to, like, it's not guaranteed, but I'd, um, you know, exaggerate that. I would dare to say it's almost guaranteed that you get a selective spot if you go into an OC school, just because you have been taught every tip and trick. Again, it's not guaranteed, but as long as you are just doing the work that you're supposed to at OC, you're doing your tutoring that you're meant to for the selective exam, it becomes much more easy. And having experienced myself, just tutored kids in the past and interacted with kids who've been doing this for a while, from a confidence standpoint, I always notice the OC kids are just much more confident, much more relaxed when it comes to selective. When I ask an OC kid how they found the selective, they're like, "Yeah, it's all right. It's what I've been practicing for the last 2 years. It was pretty good," and they'll make a selective, right? So to me, it's like, why not just go for the easier battle earlier on? Because getting into an OC, I think, is for me personally easier than a selective, because the OC exam is much easier. If you look at the past papers, selective is a demon of exam, and the gap between OC to selective, it's hard to cover in that 2 years time. So to me, it's like, why not just push hard for an OC exam and then let school also do something, and school also can help you get into selective. Because right now the problem is that most people are just going to tutoring in preparation for selective, and tutoring can only do so much when it comes to preparing for the selective, right? Like we don't have the 6 hours of day to spend with your child um, like school does. So by getting into OC, it's sort of attacking it from both fronts. You have your tutoring, that's fine, whatever, whatever you want to do with tutoring, but also you're optimizing their school. So their school can also help them prepare for selective. Because right now, if your child doesn't go to an OC, School isn't preparing them for a selective. Now, again, there's always exceptions to the rules. I'm just talking about averages. I obviously didn't make an OC, but I got into selective. Note that when I did the selective exam, there was a lot less competition compared to now. So I would dare to say that I would not have made selective if I was doing it now, just because of how hard the exam is and how the times have changed. Um, so again, exceptions to the rule. I still made a selective without OC, but I did push very, very hard, and it was a lot hard. Like school helped me nothing. I was teaching my friends things about maths and English in class, right? But in an OC environment, everyone, and this is what happens at OC schools, everyone helps each other. Everyone teaches each other. Your kid no longer will just be a standout bright kid. They'll be surrounded by other really standout bright kids and just grow. So it's just a bit more about putting your kid into an environment earlier on to help them get into a selective school, which, as you guys all know, is something that is very important in Sydney, either being in a selective or a private school. It's just what will help. Those are, if you look at the ranking point of view, those is what comprise the best schools in Sydney in terms of rankings, academics, co-curriculars, things like that, right? So that's sort of it from me. I think my main message to you guys is to really focus. And I know a lot of parents always say they just want to focus on selective. You can focus on selective, but at the end of the day, you're competing with the OC kids as well. And if the OC kids just have worked harder earlier on and have just learnt more, um, you're going to lose to the OC kids. And that's just on averages again, right? Like most of the kids coming to selective schools in James, Roos, Borkham Hills, the North Sydney boys, they're all OC kids. So you can push as hard as you want, but unfortunately, you guys just have to understand what the competition is. So you may as well be on the better side of the competition. If you're in an OC school, it's just going to make your life much easier when it comes to selective prep. Because I know all the parents who've just had their kids sat the selective school exam can attest to this. It's not easy. It's very, very stressful. And if school could have helped or supplemented somehow, especially in those ending days, it would have made their kids' lives easier. And that's exactly what an OC school does. School does help the kids prepare for selective. It does supplement in a bit more of that learning. Um, and it's what is going to ultimately just improve your chances of getting into selective. All right. So my main message again, to reiterate, I'd say, if you've got a kid in year 3 or any of the year 4 kids, really put your best step forward for the OC exam. Because if you get an OC school, chances are you just do what you need to do, you'll probably get a selective. You know what I mean? That's just how it goes. Or you have a much higher chance. So don't treat OC just like, just a fun test. Really put your foot forward for it. Try it. It's basically the selective exam, just 2 years earlier. It's a proxy for the selective exam. So you may as well give your best crack for it. Um, and just do the easier version of the selective exam. That's honestly how I see it. You're going to have to sit the exam. You may as well do the easier one, the OC exam, because that will almost guarantee your spot into the selective. Not fully guarantee again, just speaking on averages, but it will make your chances extremely high to get into selective. Alrighty, guys, take care. Hope you have a great day.